Begin the Planning Commission Board of Adjustment meeting on Tuesday, July 9th, 2024. To begin with, we are going to do the call of order and then the roll call. Peter, would you mind doing the roll call for us tonight?
Yes. Ayers.
Here.
Zierden. Here. Weaver.
Here.
Brisbane.
Here.
Thies.
Here.
And all rise. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge the allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we'll start with either amendment or approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes or a motion to approve?
I'll make it a motion to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion has passed. And then we'll move on to open forum. So if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak on a topic that's not currently on the agenda, you may approach the podium, state your name and address, and speak freely. All right, we're going to go ahead and close the open forum and move on to approval of the June 11th, 2024 regular Planning Commission Board of Adjustment meeting minutes. Do we have any changes or do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second that.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion has passed. And now we're going to move on to new business. The first item is variance application V24002 for James and Susan Sackrider. And we'll just turn to that page in our agenda. And we will start with a staff report. Peter, if you wouldn't mind.
Madam Chair, members of the board, variance application V24-002, Sackrider, applicant James and Susan Sackrider, 32601 Timberline Point, legal description lot 31, also included in part of the vacated Timberline plat and doc 897023. The property is zoned R2, which is unsewered general development lake, which carries a 75-foot ordinary high water level setback. The staff report includes the applicant did not have a required in-person pre-app meeting with staff. The applicant has filed the appropriate application for a variance. The applicant did not pay the appropriate fee for the application. The fee was waived by prior zoning administration. The city has paid for all filings and all postings associated with this current application, as this is not a recommended policy by current staff. As city staff time and resources involved in processing and reviewing the variance request exceeds de minimis application cost of $250. Public notice of the hearing was published in the legal newspaper for the city, and all property owners within 350 feet were mailed a notice of the hearing. Public notice was given to the DNR as the property is in a shoreland overlay district. The DNR did reply. I'll read their comments in as part of the staff report as well too. This letter is from Jacob Free. He's the DNR area hydrologist. Good afternoon, Board of Adjustment. The Minnesota DNR recommends denial of the OHW setback request for the following reasons. Number one, the variance is not due to circumstances unique to the property and is created by the property owner based on certificate of survey provided from Lakes Area Surveying, revised in 821. The existing residence is only 25 feet from the ordinary high water level, represents a 75% existing deviation from the 75-foot general development classified lake setback. Further encroaching an additional 1 foot towards the ordinary high water level represents an exacerbation of the issue, cause increased recreation and potential vegetation modification, increase in impervious surface, and increase in stormwater runoff close to open water. This may result in reduced water quality benefits and a reduction in near water habitat within the shore impact zone. B, unless other information is supplied to the contrary, there appears to be ample area to add to the addition on the house on the west side or further away from the lake in an area already covered by the existing concrete patio surfaces. It is also not clear why an addition could not be considered to the rear of the house or somewhere on the backside away from the lake. Number 2, the variance is not in harmony with the purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance. The proposed 8-foot addition to the east side may end up causing a new variance from the dwelling unit to the septic tank, which the MPCA rules a minimum mandated 10-foot setback from dwelling units to septic tanks. Doing so could cause maintenance issue accesses for pumpers and maintainers in the future. Measurements are not shown on the survey, but since the minimum 10-foot distance is in doubt, the survey needs to be updated to include this information. A separate additional variance request would need to be called out for and published within the statutory timelines prior to the public hearing. According to the certificate of survey, the proposed addition will result in an impervious surface coverage overage of 35.56%. According to the City of Breezy Point zoning ordinance, section 153.032G23, the maximum allowed impervious surface coverage on this medium density residential R2 unsewered lot is 25%. Also, according to Minnesota Rule 6120, impervious surface coverage on residential lots in the shoreland area must not exceed 25%. Any proposed improvements to this lot that involve increased impervious surfaces cannot and must not be considered until the impervious coverage is reduced to 25%. Further, the DNR would not be able to and is not supportive of any variance consideration to deviate from the maximum impervious coverage in the LGU state rules. For the above impervious coverage comment, the certificate of survey needs to be revised showing a detailed site plan of how and where the impervious surfaces will be reduced to meet the city and state shoreline rules before considering the variance request and the ordinary high water setback due to a proposed addition. And since it may result in an additional variance request for impervious surface coverage, additional variance request will need to be called out for and published within the statutory timeline prior to a public hearing. There appears to be ample opportunity to reduce the impervious surface coverage by eliminating all of the concrete surfaces within the 75-foot building setback, and also narrow the existing driveway and parking areas in the rear lot zone. Thank you for allowing the DNR with an opportunity to comment on this application. Per Minnesota rules, please be sure to send a copy of the record and notice of decision within the supporting findings of fact within 10 days of the decision of this application. Sincerely, Jacob Prairie, area hydrologist. Going back to the staff report, we'll have some rebuttal to the DNR letter there. The variance the applicant is requesting a variance from the required road right-of-way, or hang on here, get out to the right one. Okay, is requesting a variance from the 75-foot lake setback on Osawatomie to a setback distance of 24 feet and a variance to exceed the maximum impervious surface coverage of 25% to 35.5% to construct an 8x32 residential addition on a non-conforming structure. Summary of the property: Lot 31 Trottercade was platted in 1961. The property is located at 32601 Timberline Point. The property is in a residential neighborhood bordered by seasonal and year-round residences. The existing residence is considered an existing non-conforming structure, which means grandfathered. Basically, in summary, meaning it does not meet today's standards and would not be allowed under current regulation. The current owner did not construct the building but purchased the property as it sits today. Buying and developing any property is always speculative and there is no guarantees, especially when buying a property that sits less than 1/3 of the setback to the lake. Shoreline standards have been in effect since 1969, and this is far from any new scenario. It's at the time prior to purchase is when landowners need to do their due diligence, as all properties are affected by certain zoning districts in any city or town. That would have been the appropriate time to ask the variance request upon a contingency of the property purchase. This is not an uncommon question. As a matter of fact, it is actually quite uncommon that people do not seek this information out ahead of time. The phone in the zoning office rings with these questions on a daily basis. As I was very specific with the applicant when we spoke in January, nothing prohibits anyone from making a variance request, no matter how egregious is out of standards, but egregiously out of standards, but one also needs to be prepared for the answer to such questions. If staff did not respond honestly to that question, and accordingly, the staff would not be doing what the city hired them to do. This variance request seems to be putting the burden on the Planning Commission to make several severe waivers to basic shoreline zoning standards. New building expansion in Shore Impact Zone 1 and a gross overage in the amount of impervious surface coverage allowed that could be reduced by the applicant, however the applicant chose not to. In addition, the plan needs to compromise to reduce hard coverages and relocate the addition to an area not impeding on the lake setback. So this is not the right fit for the property, staff feels. It's essentially trying to put 10 pounds of sugar into a sack that is only large enough to hold 5 pounds of sugar. A question each of the board members should consider and ask themselves in consideration of the following request is, if this exception is made on this property, are we ready to make this exception every time for every property? This request is very extreme of a request, and it is a large deviation from the shoreline standards. It is okay to deny such requests that don't meet the standards. Denying the variance will not take away any current use the property enjoys. The property actually gets to enjoy much more than other lake properties, in that the setback is so extreme here. Properties that are built today are required to build at 75 feet. Yes, the variances do exist on some properties, and minimal allowances are allowed from time to time. However, this proposal is more akin to a commercial resort ask. Additionally, if this was a tear-down rebuild project, which is becoming more and more common in the Shoreland District, the project would be held to the current impervious surface standards of 25%, which all new construction has been required for years. The following has the recommended staffs included in the applicant's packet. I'm not going to read through those. Those were available to the commissioner members. If they'd like me to go through those, I certainly can. Some of the comment to the DNR letter where he was asking about publication for the variance actually was published correctly, so we do not have to republish, and the board certainly can hear this variance request tonight. So that concludes the staff report. If you have any questions, please ask.
Any questions from the commission?
Just to clarify, this is only for the setback, not the impervious? Or is there a separate variance for the impervious if we so choose to move forward with the addition?
Yeah, it's a stacked variance, so it would be reduction in the lake setback and to go over the impervious surface coverage.
Okay.
And I'm just going to add to this, I re-listened to the, I believe it was September, where the applicant first presented to us. I re-listened to that, and I'm just going to remind everyone here of some of the things that we had questions on at the beginning, so maybe the applicant, when they come up, will address these questions. So the first concern is that the application was perhaps incomplete. We were missing some information about what the add-on was actually used for, what the practical difficulty is, which is a requirement before we can grant a variance. We have to know what those items are, and how the current living situation is negatively impacted by the lack of being able to complete the addition. The DNR did have their statement here with the runoff questions, so that was something that we needed to consider before we could even consider the application. And that the impervious coverage, of course, was something that we also did findings because it did increase over, it's already over, and then it additionally increased versus maintained or decreased impervious coverage. So those are the concerns that we had over the initial one. So at this time, I'd like to invite the applicant up to the podium. Please state your name and address, and then present for us, please.
Good evening. I'm Jim Sackrider. This is my wife and I's cabin, 32601 Timberlane Point. Wow, it sounds like I got an uphill battle here, a little bit going on. But I'll do the best that I can. I grew up in Maplewood, went to school in Sioux Falls, worked in Arden Hills for a couple of years before I went in the Air Force. Met my wife after 20 years. My blood kind of thinned out. I can't really take the Minnesota winters anymore. I made the mistake in 2019 of bringing my wife to Lakes Country, which she'd never been. And as you can imagine, she fell in love with it. So we have this cabin on Aussie. We're basically here right now from May until September and hope to extend that on the ends. So the purpose of this variance, 8 feet, why do we need 8 feet bump out the side of the cabin? The short answer is to add a bathroom. I grew up in the 60s and 70s, 5 kids, 2 parents, 1 bathroom. We had a schedule, who was using the bathroom for showers and baths, and that was the way it was. We also had the occasional accidents because you can't schedule things all that with one bathroom and 7 people. This cabin was built in the early 60s. As you know, one bathroom was the norm, especially in a cabin. Back then, they're probably living high, just have an indoor bathroom. And we also had 5 drivers in one car. But we had schedules and made it work. But times changed, living standards have changed greatly. One bathroom was reasonable in the 60s. I also don't remember back then as many people having IBS and GI issues, but that's compounded the single bathroom issues. We've been in the cabin for 5 summers and made it work, back to the schedules, announcing, you know, if you're gonna be in the bathroom for a while. And when our kids visit with their significant others, we actually rent a porta potty to try and preclude the problems and accidents. I don't think one bathroom is necessarily unreasonable. We've made it work, but it can be challenging. As you can see, and as we've heard, the critical document in this packet is the survey. And there's multiple issues with this lot. Mostly that it's squeezed in between Timberlane Point and the OHW. You can see from those pictures and from that, and I don't know if you've driven by there, it's tight. I think you'll see from a common sense perspective that the variance is reasonable. I understand you also have legal requirements to fulfill. When I set to request this variance, I try to approach it from a perspective as I've been previously in a somewhat similar situation as a HOA president, having to balance request versus the rules and any precedent that you might be setting. I understand that. I understand I'm biased because it's my request, but I think it's a reasonable request. This is essentially an 8-foot bump out the side of the cabin. The change is fully supported by our neighbors. We fully intend to keep the same look of the cabin, and when it's complete, I don't think most residents going by on their boats, nobody sees it because we're down the hill, but on their boats, I don't think people are going to really notice anything was done. Courts define practical difficulties, and there are a few questions I need to answer. Is the proposed use reasonable? Well, it's not going to impact the neighbors. It's almost unnoticeable change from the shoreline, as some of the, one of the things I have another picture here that's outlines that. And by doing this project, the runoff to the lake will be significantly better and solved than what it is now. What are the practical difficulties? The first practical difficulty in and of itself is that this is a non-conforming lot. Our intent is to make this non-conforming lot better. Along with that, there's a driveway which serves both neighbors, which doesn't allow me to eliminate it. And the main difficulty for us is that one bathroom for 6 to 8 adults in 2024 and forward is challenging and at times difficult. Are the circumstances for the property such that there aren't other options? Well, there are always other options, but are they the best options? We could tear this down, as Peter talked about, put it in the same footprint, which would dramatically change the look from the lake. That's what everybody's doing, and people don't want these McMansions put up, especially right on the water like that. It would not address the runoff issue. We'd have to be below 25%, but there are serious other runoff issues, even if you're down to 25% on this lot. Blindly fulfilling that doesn't solve them. Couldn't we just build up? Well, the foundation will not support a second story. That would dramatically change the look of the lake and the shoreline, and this would not address the runoff issue either. Yeah, if you reference the survey, you can see there's a lot going on. There's a shared driveway. There's a very steep slope from the south side of the driveway. It goes all the way up to Timberlane Point, and if you were standing on Timberlane Point and South Bay looking across the lake, you're actually standing, if you haven't been there, you might have been by, you're actually 10 feet, roughly 10 feet above the roof of the cabin. As we talked about, the standard is impervious is 25%, platted in the 60s, and I disagree with the numbers. I'm not sure where they came from. I'm at 29% impervious, and it said it was going to go to 35%. This would add 1% to what we have now. It's actually 1.02%. So we need to talk about the numbers on if we're getting into strict numbers, because I'm not where the numbers that I did not see the letter from the DNR, so that was my first hearing of it. My understanding is that when granting a variance, you can expand a non-pervious coverage for non-conforming use. I'm sure you know better than me. The calculations for pervious coverage include the shared driveway, which I have no control over, and somewhat question whether or not that should be counted against me or not. Some people say yes, some people say no, and obviously that would put me way below 25%. There are currently drainage issues with this lot. Large amount of runoff comes from both of my neighbors because we're down from both of them. So the shared driveway is where most of the water comes from. And I've actually had my foundation fixed and stabilized mostly from the water runoff. In undertaking this project, I am proposing a way to rectify the water runoff problems with an engineered water runoff plan that we have there. By doing this, I contend that I'm complying with the intent of the regulations. And the reason we have limits for impervious coverage is to minimize stormwater runoff. That's the whole reason for them. I could start removing sidewalks, patio, just whatever, bring it down to 25% non-pervious, but this wouldn't necessarily address the stormwater runoff plan. It would only blindly comply with the percentage of non-pervious that's been put out there by the DNR. I believe by implementing a professionally designed stormwater runoff plan, I'm addressing the same issue that the impervious coverage regulation is protecting. I contend that this solution is better than just lowering impervious coverage because it's a custom design engineered for this lot and slope to the lake. If I don't do this project, there's still runoff problem that I'm not required to fix because the lot is grandfathered. We both lose. I still have one bathroom and there's runoff into the lake. If I do this project, we get our bathroom and any runoff problems are rectified. I believe we're both achieving our goals, also known as a win-win. What does this do to the neighborhood? Will this alter the essential character of the neighborhood? I think you can see by the superimposed drawing that's been up, it will almost be unnoticeable. We're changing the roof line. We're not just scabbing on. We're making it part of the house to look like that's the way it was always built. We love having an old 60s cabin. We don't want to tear it down, don't want to build up. I hope you can see that we'd like this bump out also while being good stewards of our lake and our community. Ultimately, we hope you'll grant this variance. I have and I didn't get this to Peter in time for the meeting, but I have a document from the DNR that talks about shoreland and floodplain variance guidance on impervious services. And I mean, I'm kind of beating a dead horse here, but it says, you know, the opening line is why are impervious surface coverage limits important? In the protection of water quality, the management of rainwater on individual lots is our most important task. Rainwater that does not infiltrate the ground or evaporate runs downhill into lakes, wetlands, or rivers. As impervious surface coverage increases, the rate and amount of runoff and pollutants entering our waters increases. When runoff from impervious surface coverage is not addressed, pollution increases and the diversity of aquatic life is reduced. And the conditions, they say, for the findings are, is the variance in harmony with the purposes and intent of the ordinance? I think it is. You may not. I hope you do. Is the variance consistent with the comprehensive plan? Are there unique circumstances to the property not created by the landowner? Will the variance, if granted, alter the essential character of the locality? Does the proposal put property to use in a reasonable manner? I propose that we're fulfilling all these conditions. I hope you find this to be a reasonable request, and I thank you for your time and attention. Are there any questions I can answer?
First one I have is, can you walk us through what the stormwater plan is?
Okay, I can do that. This one's a little bit bigger, actually. Can I approach? The ones that, it's a little bit small there. So here's a lot bigger one. And you can see from the stormwater runoff plan that most of this problem comes down the driveway.
We can share if we need to.
Okay. Let me see. Here we go. That's the picture, here's the stormwater runoff plan.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then I kind of superimposed onto that picture what it'll look like. And if you look at that picture, if you look to the left side, you can see the concrete from my neighbors with the blue house and how that's sloping down towards the cabin. And on the right side, it's out of the picture, but that's where the steep part of the driveway comes around, and there's a lot of water that comes down that direction. And what happens is, if you look between the blue house and the cabin, they're year-round, and their guy plows and leaves everything right there. As well as behind there, they've got a lot of concrete over there. That all comes over there. It ends up coming in the yard and out to the lake, and the same thing happens over on the other side. So with the stormwater runoff plan that they designed from Backyard Reflections, they're adding these holding areas to give the water time to, it'll pool and then settle in, and it's real sugar sand, very porous down there, so it doesn't need that much to soak in, and that will take care of. And if it doesn't, I mean, I can go back to them and have them redesigned, but that's what they do, and that they were suggested by multiple people in the area as far as being good at designing this stuff. I know you previously had some questions about septic and those kinds of things. The septic was new, put in when I bought it. Unbeknownst to me until then, septic systems are designed off of the number of bedrooms, not bathrooms. But since they were putting it in, I paid the extra to have it done as a 4-bedroom house, just to have the added capacity. Based on my job, I always like having backups and added capacity. And that actually pumps underneath the driveway and up the hill and across the road to the drain field on the other side of the road.
How many bedrooms are currently in there?
It's 3 bedrooms, and the only reason that the 8 feet is to get the width for the bathroom, and then the other 2, they're real small rooms on the lake side, so I'm just gonna move those over to take up that. So it's still three bedrooms, it's just adding a bathroom.
What's all the concrete on the left side of the house for?
Actually, it's not all concrete, some of it is pavers, but that's basically patio area, that's where we usually eat if it's not raining or blowing like this year. So yeah, that side is there's a table and chairs there on that side. And again, you know, I started measuring and doing calculations, and I can start taking out concrete, but to what end? You know, if we're going to be stuck on pervious and start removing things, I mean, I'm gonna get it done. Let's talk about how we can make it work as opposed to why it can't work. I can start looking at that part of the driveway next to that fish cleaning house. But I'll be honest with you, I've been making phone calls all winter long trying to get somebody that knows something about pervious asphalt, and it's very difficult up here. I can do it, but there's a lot that goes along with that. You know, there's a lot of maintenance to it, and quite honestly, from who I might have to bring in and how deep I would have to go, it might kill the project. You know, I'm not some of these people that have unlimited funds. I think doing that driveway to non-pervious might be more than the actual project itself. Which I get it, I understand that, that's my problem, not yours, but I'm trying to get a middle ground here where, instead of all that water going into the lake, let's address that. Like I said, that adds 1.02% to what I have now. If you even want to go look, it's non-conforming. If you can get rid of something and keep us at what you are, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what we have to do. I know you have to answer to certain people, and that's what we got to get. I think it passes the common sense check, what we're trying to do, but I don't have the same reference that you folks do.
You couldn't put the addition back further, or?
Yeah, on a septic.
Yeah, I suppose you're in a septic there.
You know, I had the plans drawn up, and that's what made the most sense, is what we're doing, to add on there. So I didn't look at a whole lot of other options.
On that note, on the opposite side of where the addition is showing, it looks like there's some concrete or pavers. Would there be an issue moving, just out of a question, to that side of the house? Reason I'm asking is because, one, it would be not adding additional coverage because it would be over top of concrete or pavers, and it would be less close to the lake, where here it's actually closer to the lake by adding the addition just because of it narrowing on that side of the home, where on the other side of the home, it would be further from the lake, you know, at smaller points, but every little bit, you know, does certainly
Right,
help.
right. And to answer your question, it really wouldn't work on that side without gutting the house and reconfiguring it, because that side used to be a porch, and then they changed that into part of the house. So you go in through there to the kitchen, so the living side is all the way on the other side of the house. So adding it to this side, like I said, I would probably have to start gutting a bunch of the house to try and make that happen.
What
you
is
know-
on that side of the house? Is that where the bedrooms are at then, or?
Yeah, the bedrooms are on the side where the addition would go. So I don't know if you have that handy. Let me see here. If you could scroll, there you go. So that's, okay, so there's not, is there a good line on there? So you see where that bathroom is on the right side? That is the 8 feet. So to the left edge of that bathroom goes straight up and down now. So all I'm doing is taking that bedroom and the upper bedroom wall, and it's showing right now where it is. It's gonna move over to that new line to share the room with that other bedroom, and move a couple windows around, and it's kind of a easiest way to do it.
Unfortunately, it's closer to the lake.
Well, and you know, if you want me to square that angle off to the lake, it's kind of goofy if that's what we need to do, but you know, I put I don't know what degree angle that would be.
Or can you,
It'd be a something to talk about when people come over.
What are you saying, Teddy?
oh, I was just gonna say you could make it a bump out where the existing bump out is, but move that wall in,
Right,
your
bump it
foot
back.
or whatever that case may be.
Yeah,
You lose a foot of a bedroom.
You still have 36%
Right.
impervious.
or just from the corner of the new, keep it the same distance and lose that foot on the outer edge.
Right.
Be a conversational, be a little interesting on the siding, but you know, anything can be worked around.
I was just thinking you just move that whole wall line in a foot to make it not
Yeah, could
so
do that.
goofy.
Could do that too.
So instead of the, whatever, 22 feet, it's 21 feet.
Right. Yeah. And I know we got to get into all this stuff, but the big picture is I'm trying to improve this lot as I go and solve the real problem that the DNR has put the regulations in place for. I mean, right now, there's a lot going in. And unless I don't want to start fixing things before I have the total plan, right? So if I start fixing it with what I have now, then I'm going to have to go back in and start redoing it for this plan.
I got a question for Peter. It says your existing gravel, 1,665 square feet. That's impervious?
Yes.
It is.
Yep.
Can I piggyback on that? Is that including this abandoned South Point, whatever
It does
road?
not. Yeah, so those numbers, if he included the south point on the other side of the road, the numbers would actually be much worse because of the driveway.
And it's not including Timberline that runs through his
Right,
property as well?
exactly, yeah, so
So
this,
basically, everything planned north of the road is where those numbers are generated from.
yep, and so if everything's south, and that's looking at this, how I got involved with this is, this should probably be published to that, because it's actually a higher number as well, too. I mean, it is the property, you know,
Right.
in general, but, so, yeah,
And-
it's kind of
And
interesting.
Paul redid the numbers because he went to that dashed line instead of all the way to Timberlane Point. So he took it all the way to Timberlane Point, that brought it down to 29.75. Now, again, I hate to be, the reasonable man concept, my neighbor's actually here, and just like mine goes south, and I would, if there weren't houses and a road there, I would probably have another acre or half an acre at least to the south, like she does next to me over on this side. I mean, I could purchase a bunch of that from her, replat it, and then I would be legal, but none of that has anything to do with the water runoff this direction. That all goes another direction. So the reasonable man concept would go, okay, well, you're doing that just to comply. Yeah, if that's what I have to do, I can comply, but it's not addressing the actual rudimentary problem.
And I would just say to that point, though, because you don't own the property, she could potentially do something with it, and then it would remove that.
I'm just saying, I'm
consideration.
just saying, for instance, if I did that, I would be under the 25, but it really doesn't apply to the situation, because that is a total runoff a different direction.
Where does everybody park?
I'm sorry?
Where does everybody park when you have a full
So
house?
that bump out to the top, so,
By the neighbor's driveway there to the
yeah,
left?
over to the left-hand side.
Yep.
So basically, our property goes right through kind of the middle of that last parking space, but
Yep.
we have an understanding, they have that parking space, and we have 2 or 3, and if they have people, then, they park there. Same thing with our neighbor on the other side, they park all the way to the fish house, and that's drawn incorrectly. I had Paul redraw that. Their concrete goes all the way to that stone wall, so it's the same width as that bituminous next to it. So they use that parking all the way up to that fish cleaning house right there. And that concrete in between the two is actually steps going up to Timberlane Point.
You do have a lot of impervious in
Yep.
a small area.
Yep, and I'd love to get rid of that driveway, but, I can't do that. Being shared.
Does anyone else need more time or have questions? We can always call the applicant back up.
On the, that porch area where you have like the table, so the concrete comes out to the back of the house a little bit, and then it also goes in front, spans around the front too, right there?
That piece that he's got right there?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it goes, there's like a sidewalk there, and there's a sidewalk in the front, whether you call the front or the back of the house, it's kind of the front of the house, again, away from the lake. So that's, actually goes to the old front, there's a front door, and then like a laundry room door there. And, you know, I can start taking those out, and that'll give me, each one of those is 120 square feet. You know, but again, there's not runoff problems there. I can start doing that, and I can take out as much as I'm gonna put in, if that makes it good for everybody. I don't think that's solving anything, but I can do that. I think the stormwater runoff plan is gonna solve more than anything else.
Peter, who inspects those rain gardens?
Nobody does. So what can happen is they can be completely installed and then a new buyer can buy it and
Fill it
they
in?
just pave over it or whatever, so that's kind of that is a problem with some of the runoff stuff is there's no real practical way to, like I certainly can't go to every property and verify those, and the county even, they struggle with that as well too.
So does the DNR do any of that type of inspection? I don't know.
They do not.
They don't.
20-year Air Force veteran and a current federal officer for the Department of Homeland Security. You got my word that it's gonna work right and it's gonna be done right if I do it.
Do you know if backyard reflection had a civil engineer look at this for the design of the stormwater, or was this just them based on past experience and what they know?
I don't know that, but I get that answer, and if you wanna
Okay.
put that in the requirements that a civil engineer has to approve it, I'm good with
For
that.
me, it just makes more sense than it's
Absolutely,
not just, I can design landscaping.
right.
As
The reason
well.
I went with them is because I
No.
had multiple, but I didn't ask that question. It's a good
Right.
question to ask. If you wanna grant the variance with, it has to be stamped by a civil engineer,
Right.
that makes sense to me.
I don't have any more questions for the applicant.
I don't either, no.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. We may call you back.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, if we're going to open it up for public feedback or input, so if anyone in the audience would like to approach the podium, state their name and address, we would certainly welcome any additional input. All right, we'll close the public input, and then we're going to go off to a the findings. And these are in your packet. I'm going to go ahead and read through them. So, notice of decision and findings of facts. The Planning Commission shall consider the following in its decision and make written findings concerning the variance approval or its denial. The first thing we need to consider is the strict interpretation of the ordinance. Would it be impractical because of circumstances due to lot size, shape, topographic, or other characteristics of the property that was not created by the landowner? Our findings are that no, the existing structure was created by a prior landowner. The property does sit on a plotted peninsula, however, it was platted before the ordinance standards and would never be allowed to be subdivided as it is today. The landowner could reconfigure the addition to the side or rear of the structure and not need such an extreme variance related to the shoreline impact zone. The property also exceeds impervious surface coverage allowed within this zoning district. The property enjoys the setback as it sits today, which is new construction, it would never be considered. Exceptional properties need exceptional land design considerations. These plans seem to be largely land over preference, with not consideration for today's standards. The proposed plans can be reconfigured to not need a reduction to the setback. Existing hardships can also be reduced to meet impervious surface standards. If this was a tear down, the rebuild would still be held to the 25% impervious standards. Number 2, the deviation from the ordinance with any attached conditions will still be in keeping with the spirit and in the intent of the ordinance. And in this case, no, the encroachment into the setback is extreme. The front-facing expansion as proposed will significantly increase the visual impact as viewed from public waters. Also, Winnemucee is a narrow lake, so it's an extremely visible structure already with respect to the setback of the building that it currently enjoys. For instance, if this was on a larger lake, like Big Pelican or Whitefish, the visual impact would not be quite as critical as it is here. Due to the narrow width of the lake, the property's location on the peninsula, visual impact is critical here. There's very little, if any, vegetation screening between the structure and the lake. The addition could be put on the back side of the structure, which would eliminate the additional closeness to the lake in the setback. Number 3, the land use created by the variance is permitted in the zoning district and the property where it's located. But no, the zoning district requires a 75% minimum setback from the lake, and the proposed addition is less than a third of that distance. The property is also over impervious coverage. The zoning district that allows for such coverage would be commercial, and this is not a commercial property. It's a seasonal, could be a year-round residential zoning. The proposed plans as presented don't fit the property and fail to consider the uniqueness for the property to meet the design standards required to meet the lot coverage allowances. Number 4, the variance will not alter the essential character of this locality. We believe it will alter the locality as stated in findings number 3. The request is proposing impervious surface coverage numbers as found in commercial zoning, and this is not commercial zone property. The adjacent neighbors do not have as extreme impervious coverages. The nearest commercially zoned property is a campground on the other side of the lake, and even most of their buildings meet or exceed the lake setbacks required and not even developed at the impervious limits allowed. Number 5, the variance is not for economic reasons alone, but reasonable use of the property that does not exist under the current ordinance. The economics aside, the proposed additions could be reconfigured to the back of the structure, and the interior of the building could be reconfigured as such that it would not require a setback reduction variance from the lake. Existing hardscapes can be removed and reduced to better meet the impervious surface standards. If this project was a complete teardown, the rebuild of impervious coverage would not be allowed. Reasonable use exists in enjoying and maintaining the current residence as it's situated closer to the lake than other properties get to enjoy. Additionally, the stormwater management plan provided did not propose a reduction of hardscapes to meet the impervious surface requirements. And if economics were considered by the city of Breezy Point, has hosted this variance application by waiving various fees in this instance, which isn't typical. The city has already funded the application. If the city approves the request and gets appealed by the DNR, as it seems likely based on the letter, this puts an additional cost burden on the city of Breezy Point taxpayers to defend a variance decision that's likely to get overturned. In summary, all the above findings, it is in the intent of the City of Breezy Point ordinance, policies, and comprehensive plan to move properties towards compliance with existing rules and standards, not to continue to allow or expand and support development that's not in harmony with those standards. So those are our current findings. This begins the deliberation period between the commission and just a review of where we're at. So does anyone have additional thoughts, questions, things that we want to bring up at this time?
Still comes down to the DNR saying no, and we're less than a third setback, and impervious is 20% more than it should be. So there's a lot of stuff there.
It's also a very irregular lot. I mean, if you look
That
at
it is.
look at the current building envelope
It's
at
back.
what it is, I mean, you'd have a hard time building a new house there in general without cutting off the driveway to the neighbor.
Well, you could
In my
tear,
mind, the hardship is the lot in general. And yes, the impervious is the impervious.
with quite a slope there
There is,
to the lake.
and there is now already, without any of the rain gardens or the depressions or anything else already happening.
So kind of the concerns that we're running into is, one, there's already an existing runoff issue, as the applicant has already stated. His plan is hoping to improve upon that, but at the same time, we're not doing our due diligence to meet our current standards. We're actually allowing additional exceeding of impervious coverage and allowing additional setback, I don't know the proper terminology, but by the addition, it's actually moving it closer to the lake versus further back. So I think those are things that we need to really seriously consider, is that we're not improving upon it, we're actually exaggerating the situation, making it worse. Even though the water adding in the rain guards would potentially help the situation, we're still not solving the initial requirements that are in place for us to consider.
So I had just a couple of notes, and like I mentioned before, if you moved that back white wall 1 foot in, so now you're still at 25 feet to that corner, then we're not making it more, it's already that way now. Potentially removing one or both of the sidewalks, in my mind, just as a human or a resident, a sidewalk in would be nice. But from the applicant speaking, nobody parks really out front, so I'm not necessarily sure if they're absolutely needed. As well as the stairs, I don't know if anyone parks on the road and walks up the stairs. Just coming up with thoughts to remove the impervious items. And we can discuss all of this later, at a later date. I would also like to see if it does move forward, a civil engineer actually take a look at it to make sure that this stormwater plan functions in the 100-year storm event or rain event. My other thought was, can you flip it to the roadside of the house where those flower beds are in front?
That's what I thought.
And then hopefully, because the bathroom, it looks like in the existing, where it is existing is on that corner, and you could set your bathroom up there, so you can tie right into your current plumbing, and then add 1 or 2 or however many bedrooms back to the other side. And then maybe you do get 4 bedrooms and you already have the septic for it. In my mind, there's a lot that can happen to make this project move forward
More viable.
without knowing the financial situation of the applicant or any other hardships that are happening. I know that was a lot that I just spewed out right there, but
So if I were to summarize kind of what you're looking at is, one, try to remove the hurdles of exceeding or making the situation worse than it currently is by meeting the current setbacks, changing the plan as such so that the addition does not go closer to the lake.
yeah, you could do that. Or move the
And
wall.
removing the impervious coverage
Some
to
of
get
it.
down to requirements.
If we can, yeah.
And then having a civil engineer review the stormwater plan to give us the confidence that it's going to solve the issues on the runoff.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that's not.
I'm just kind of
oh, yeah,
summarizing what I think you were looking at as a.
right.
There's a lot of concrete to the left of that, the paver, the patio. I realize everybody wants a patio, but if you're trying to cut back on your impervious, that's a big piece of concrete paver.
Well, wouldn't the pavers be allowed though for,
Unless they're impervious pavers, which I don't believe that they are.
Probably not.
Correct, Peter?
Yeah, and our ordinance doesn't allow impervious pavers credit. And the reason why is because, again, like what Roger spoke to is they have to be maintained, and then got a perfect example of that is like a homeowner sells a property and they actually got to vacuum the stuff out, and then staff would be like, hey, did you vacuum out your pavers? And the new owner's like, I'm not vacuuming out my pavers, you know, and it's, you know, but yeah. And just a note to the board on some of these things to think about too, you know, definitely appreciate it, the design alternatives, but it definitely is the burden of the applicant to prove to the board that their plan meets, you know, that if board was considering this, you know, staff's recommendation would be, you know, if those changes would just to be flat out deny the applicant needs to go back, do their homework,
Right.
represent a brand new plan.
Yeah.
But those are all very interesting things that are, like you said, the civil engineered, signed off stormwater plan, those type of things definitely put, you know, more in place, you know, so, yeah.
Chair?
Quick question, if I could. Peter, if setback wasn't an issue and impervious coverage wasn't an issue, would the addition still need a variance because it's non-conforming? It's a non-conforming structure.
It needs a variance, well, because of its setback to the lake. You know, if the lake was not there, it would not need a variance. Yeah.
I guess what I'm asking though is if a modified plan eliminated the encroachment on setback, and he did whatever he needed to do to meet the impervious standard, would the application still need a variance?
Very good question. Absolutely, yes. This property needs a variance from, in my 18 years of doing shoreline zoning work, this is probably one of the more non-conforming properties
Yeah.
I've ever seen.
That's what I thought.
And the property was purchased by the current owner, it looks like the record's in 2019, so it's 3 years in the ownership. It's not like there's a giant legacy of, you know, and historical structures also don't get changed at the same time. But yeah, it's a very, very tough property, and a lot of standards fall short of being met, you know, and additional modifications, you know, that if proposed could make those better or different, you know, and not require such an extreme request, you know.
Well, in reading what the DNR said, if we wanted to make sure that also anything we say would be in conjunction with what the DNR is looking for, you know, they said that, you know, Minnesota DNR would not be supportive of any variance consideration that deviates from the maximum impervious coverage. So, you know, I think if we were to deny and say come back with a new plan, it would have to include one that the impervious coverage is reduced to 25%, and that we're above that. Where did they also say? It's unclear why the addition could not be considered near the rear of the house. I think if that was solved, the DNR may be satisfied with that, because the two things that they were bringing up, the biggest was impervious coverage, and also that it is too close to the shoreline. And if it was moved to the rear of the house, that could be something that they would be more open to. So, yes, go ahead. Please state your name and address then too for the
Jim
record.
Sackrider, 32601 Timberlane.
Thank you.
If the board wanted to approve this with less than 25% impervious, I will find a way to do it. That might be, you know, off the top of my head, that might be pulling all that concrete and putting a deck on that side. I don't know. I don't know what that's gonna cost, or pulling out some driveway, or if that's a deal killer, if you know, were to approve it with me having to comply with 25% or less impervious, that's okay with me.
I might be wrong, Peter, but if the DNR seen he came back with 28%, they would be more inclined to say that would be okay. or better than, of course, 35, 36%,
That
correct?
number's incorrect, that 35 or 36, I don't know where that came from. The number from the surveyor is 29.75 on what I've got right now. That's changed from 31, and the addition is less than 2%. So I mean, and I can produce those numbers if you want.
I can tell you kind of where I think that it's coming from. On these numbers here, he has existing gravel, which that abandoned road is gravel.
Right.
There's no other gravel on your lot, I mean, according to the survey or anything else.
So this might be the old version up here before they reduced it down to just the road. That might be what you're looking at. Right now, I'm at 29.75. The project adds 1.01, so it puts me at 31 point whatever. But, you know, I don't know if that sweetens the pot or if it doesn't matter because it's over 25%. I don't know that.
Now that, right,
Which I think is this.
it seems more than 1,600 feet.
How about the setback issue? A redesign of the addition to eliminate that issue?
Which setback? There's no way I can get to 75 feet. I'm in the driveway.
No, but to
the
not
1
make
foot?
it worse, right?
Yeah, the 1 foot?
Right,
That,
okay,
if you put that in there, I'm compliant.
okay.
Tell me how I can get it done, and I will.
Okay.
Still don't see
I
the
would
29%.
make a motion to table the decision on this application and look forward to a modified application.
So versus tabling, would it be, I think what you're saying is to deny it, to have them come back with a new,
That would be the other option.
because tabling means then we come back and we're redeliberating.
Right.
So I think you're saying deny it, come back with a new plan that meets these criteria, and then have it for reconsideration? Is
I'm
that
not sure we need to deny it. It seems to me we could just table it.
I think we do need a denial for that.
do?
Is that correct, Peter?
Madam Chair, may I speak to that? Just from staff's and legalities standpoint, the applicant has introduced material to the record that's not kosher. It has not been published as such. So variance as heard actually could probably not even be granted because somebody that lives right next door, if all of a sudden he's changing the design, they're like, and that's a total like just flip of the variance. That just, so appreciate the olive branch extending the applicant. The applicant is in here pro bono at the cost of the city of Breezy Point at staff is what so there's kind of already in the red on the expense on this. Staff's report is definitely to deny this. Send it back to the applicant. He needs to do his housekeeping, get his plans in order. It's a responsibility of the applicant to show the board a plan that works. You know, it's nice that you want to design, give some ideas, but the applicant needs to be very certain on what they need to do. And I think the extent of a variance, legally wise, an applicant stating that they're not over impervious surface standards when they have a registered certificate of survey that says they are is pretty much immaterial to the processes going forward. So if the board does want to approve anything or table, we need to have that further discussion because I don't know if we even can legally hear it at that time. So.
Okay, then I would move to deny and encourage a revised application.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, if, whatever I was gonna say, it doesn't matter because it's gotta meet the requirements, so. Whether that's a new design or just moving it a foot or whatever the case is, a civil engineer, just come with,
New plan.
right. So I will second that motion.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion has passed. All right, moving on to variance application V24003. If we can start with a staff report, please.
Okay. Madam Chair, members of the board, variance application V24003, Lauren and Melinda Kerfield. Address 29845 Shoreview Lane, Lot 8, 17th edition to the Breezy Point Estates. The property is zoned R2, which is residential sewered, meaning they have a 50-foot lake setback. The applicant has had the required pre-application meeting with staff. The applicant has filed the appropriate application for the variance. The applicant has paid for the appropriate fee for the application. Public hearing for the notice was published in the newspaper, as well as the property owners within 300 feet were mailed notice of the hearing. Public notice was also given to the DNR, as the property is in the Shoreland Overlay District. The DNR did decline to comment. The variance request, the applicant is requesting a variance from the required road right-of-way setback of 30 feet to construct an 8 by 22 foot addition and a 7.8 by 22 foot addition on an existing non-conforming residence located 9 feet from the road right-of-way. Summary of the property includes Lot 8, 17th addition to the Breezy Point Estates was platted in 1964. The property is at 29845 Shoreview Lane. The property is a unit in a duplex in a residential neighborhood bordered by other properties similar in character and commercial zoning properties in the area as well. The property actually exceeds the 50% or the 50-foot lake setback as referenced in the attached certificate of survey, and the building envelope is denoted by the dashed lines that show the building envelope. So, and there also, the structure is under the allowed 35-foot structure height. The applicant is requesting a variance from the city road right-of-way to add additional structural building that could include possibly interior parking or not. The applicant is not reducing any existing setback within respect to the road right-of-way. The property is, however, over the allowed impervious surface amounts. It does not require a variance here because there is no net increase. The proposed additions are going over existing hardscape parking areas, and additional hardscape is being removed. See the TBR, which stands for to be removed areas on the survey. Seems if the addition is allowed, the applicant could change their parking situation. The applicant has dedicated additional stormwater management areas to address potential runoff concerns. Both the city and the applicant feel there could be benefit to allow interior parking in an already congested area to mitigate some of the stormwater runoff. And also, it is a very tight property as well, too. You know, question the staff would like to ask the board when it comes up for applicant testimony is what the additions are going to be used for, and that question there. As far as approval and denial, this area is a very congested area. This property was created by a prior landowner. The city has had concerns and snow plowing problems in this area, as it already is challenging as the structures are close in there. And this property is actually encroaching into the road right-of-way setback more than the adjacent properties. So there is definitely findings here potentially for approval and also absolutely for denial, in that it's just the property's at its maximum capacity. The property's been built out. It is already above the allowed impervious surface standards, and the local traffic in the area is a difficult parking area. I told the applicant I was going to be very honest with them, which we always are. When I was at the site visit and I pulled into the parking lot, I could barely fit my car in the parking spot, you know, and, you know, I'm like, this is it. It's the elephant in the room. Are we overbuilding this property? Truly is it time to look for a different plan and a different property that has more room and more of an area? Or does the board feel that it's necessary to add some additions onto the back of these structures? Variances don't set precedences, but without a doubt, neighbors in the area, there has been historic variances before that have been denied for requests to go into that road right-of-way setback due to some of the concerns of road maintenance and things like that. So I just advise the board to proceed with caution and a lot of review on their decision on this, on what direction they're wanting to go with this. So again, sometimes it's also helpful to think of, A tear down rebuild is absolutely always on the table in shoreline zoning. If it's not, it always is, because it happens so frequently now. A shoreline tear down rebuild in this situation would not allow their structure to be where it sits today. If the structure was tore down, rebuilt, they would be required to build within the building envelope. So that is the staff report summary. If you have any questions or a little bit more detail, please ask. Thank you.
So I understand it right? If they were to tear it down, they could not build it on the existing footprint?
Correct. They'd have to build within their building
The
envelope,
envelope.
which is actually quite large, which would
Yeah, I see
fit
that.
the size of the building.
Then it wouldn't be a duplex, it'd be two single
Either or, yeah, it could be.
or a double,
Yep.
because there's two building envelopes there.
There's room on the property. It's interesting that they meet their total, from a city employee standpoint, there are definite challenges. I'm gonna be honest with the applicant. I mean, when I pulled up to my car, I couldn't bark hardly in there. And it's just obvious. It is what it is. I mean, there's only so much room. You know, are there tighter areas in places? I've seen on Big Sandy Lake, which isn't in the city, but I've seen some pretty tight areas. I mean, they'll ram, the county will ram the snow up against their garage doors. And the residents call the neighbor, or call the county and say, you can't do this. And the county says, we're maintaining the road. And, you know, so those are just some of the things, you know, and I know when I've been out there before with some of the council members, the traffic gets busy out there and such like that. I mean, it is what it is, you know, you know, so.
Any other questions for Peter at this time? We'll invite the applicant up and state your name and address, please.
Name is Lauren Kerfeld. I live at 29845 Shoreview Lane, or we take residence there. Our goal, or we bought this property 8 years ago, and our growing family, our number one goal is to gain some sleeping space. And it seemed like a good proposal to do that above the existing garage and widen it to make some extra garage space on one side, on the left side, and on the right side we would extend our existing main floor bedroom to allow for egress out the front. And then we gain 2 bedrooms on the upper level above the garage. It would be a 28-foot wide space and 22 feet deep for 2 bedrooms. And for parking, we would maintain 3 vehicles out front as we do now. We would move over into the property line on the right side, and then we're going to remove that on the left side. And I can park my full-size vehicle in front of the garage door and not be encroaching on the road. That's full-size pickup.
So just for clarity, what's the distance between the proposed new garage and the road?
It would be in the 20-foot range, or however long my vehicle is. I think it's approximately 20 feet. It's 9 feet to the property line, and then there's depending on where they place the asphalt, that's what I use as the road, the edge of the asphalt, since there's no curb.
Is that city property? Well, city, no, so your driveway would be 20 feet deep?
Yes. I would say at a minimum, I don't have, I should have that number, but
Sure seems like it's tighter than that, but, you know, I'm not,
He's going from the road, not from the property line.
right.
yes, if you include from the right-of-way, that space to the garage, and then also from there to the asphalt edge,
Yep.
there is sufficient space for my full-size Silverado to not encroach on the road. We've been parking there for 8 years.
So you're looking to change like the depth of the existing garage right now? Or that would stay the,
No, that would stay that is our line we're using for our additions,
So you're just basically building up?
correct, and wider, but within the line, the building line, current building line.
So you're only going with a 2-car garage and the other one going with a 3-car?
Correct. Yeah, we desire to maintain a main floor master bedroom. Looking ahead.
So you got like 4 feet of the garage sticking out in front of the bedrooms, correct? That roof line? This area here. That's
Looking from the back.
looking from the side. In other words, the
wall-
bedrooms don't go all the way up to the
wall-
front of the garage.
If you could point on there what you're referring to.
Where the door is, the service door on the right-hand side.
Oh, that's
Their
that's-
side.
That's the other applicant.
Right.
We are on the left side with the chimney.
Right, so this garage roof is sticking out past the bedrooms up here. Am I looking at that right? So this is the bedrooms up here.
Yes.
That's the lake side you're looking
Yes.
from.
Yeah, I see what you're saying now.
No, this is the roadside, isn't it?
Oh, no, the garages would be the road
That
side.
is the south elevation.
This is?
Yes, with the fireplace is on the.
That's the east one, isn't it?
That would be south, where the
That's south?
fireplace is. And that that space right there, that's an option upstairs to, we could bring that upper bedroom, that was a design, early design we had where the garage,
Oh,
where the
okay.
bedrooms
No, I am
upstairs, we
looking at the other
put them
one.
4 feet back. But currently, we're thinking it might be best to bring that out to the front, but I didn't feel it affected the variance because we're still in line.
All right,
It absolutely affects the variance. You'd have to apply for a whole new variance.
For the second level?
Absolutely. Yep, it's a non-conforming structure. We couldn't even hear it. Yeah, you'd create, yeah, that's,
Sure.
they
Okay.
could, the board can legally, no matter how nice or everybody wants to be, the board can only legally approve what's in front of them.
Okay.
And I know I've been very specific with all the applicants about that because it's very important, because a lot of eyes are on projects and they dive right into the files and say, we want to see what's there. And I just want to make that for the record to be very specific. I've had many unfortunate conversations with landowners where they've modified things and a neighbor says, was that supposed to go on there? And I look at the plan, all of a sudden it goes, oh, no, it wasn't. And now we need to talk about it coming off. So just, sorry to interject here, but that's a very, that's, the football has gone out of bounds and out of the stadium
Sure.
in a play of that. The board can only consider what's in front of them today.
Largely, the reason that was drawn that way was for aesthetics, to have the lower garages bumped out 4 feet to make it more appealing versus all a flush 2-story.
okay, so
wall.
it is bumped out 4 feet.
Yes, but the front of that 4-foot bump out is the current wall now,
Right, right.
just to verify.
And I want to be clear, that's a single garage, right?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, the existing garage is 12 by 22, and we'd like to make it 20 by 22, 8 feet wider. And I know in our neighborhood, in our city, plow drivers, they accommodate us very well. It seems like they push the snow through and don't push it into our driveway. I don't know if we're fortunate, we have good accommodating plow drivers, but they tend to not make a windrow in front of our, it's a very minimal, all winter long, it's only a couple of feet high.
That would be the case for several of the houses along there. Correct?
Yes, I
Yeah.
think it's true, yes. There's a lot of open space between the houses for them to drop the snow. Like from our driveway to the next driveway is probably 100 feet minimum.
I don't think there is a picture of the existing.
Madam Chair, that shaded area in the back, is that a deck, or what is that currently, or what is it?
That is a deck, yes.
Okay.
And I don't know that, we did note it on our variance, but there's a portion of the deck that we want to extend the dining room and then extend the bedroom upstairs. But I didn't think that qualified or was a variance issue. Because it's beyond the late setback. It'd be a standard building permit issue, I believe.
So on the elevation drawings, it doesn't show a deck,
It should.
unless I'm
Just
missing
shows it
something.
on the
It's
floor plan.
it's
Oh,
ground level. There's no
Oh,
railings.
I gotcha. So it's right off the patio door,
Yes, there's
like
two.
a concrete slab, but you're,
Currently, there's two patio doors, one in the dining and one in the living room. And the deck is 6 feet out, and we're looking at extending that 6 feet for dining room and bedroom above.
So that's not a variance requirement on that, Peter? No.
Everything on the building requires a variance because it does not meet the setback to the road right of way.
Oh, so you're gonna bring in another one?
Yep, he'd have to bring in a whole new variance request if he changes from the additions of this. We legally can't issue a permit.
It is noted on the variance application that we're extending the dining space and
That's what I thought I read someplace, yeah.
Unfortunately, it wasn't included in the site plan, so they'd have to redo it.
the site plan.
And the variance applications are very specific. I would love to say yes too, but our city attorney says we legally can't approve something because it wasn't represented in the application on the site plan. Again, it would be coming in and saying, I want a variance for the X, and then getting a variance for Y. We have to follow the state statute on 462 with the publication.
That portion of the house isn't, exceeding any limits for, it's non-compliant. It would be in a compliant location. How does that make the whole project
I can't
non-compliant?
discuss zoning principles with you in great detail, but just in summary on something like this, a non-conforming structure requires variance from any addition because it already does not meet the setback. Your building encroaches into the road right-of-way setback by 22 feet. So if you add to the front of this building, it requires a variance. If you add to the top, the back, the bottom, it requires a variance. And that's state statute. So, so the buildings are non-conforming.
So the setback from the street, that should be 30 then?
Correct. And they're into it already by 22 feet. And the existing property parking they have available on their property is 11 feet, not 22 feet. They don't own the right-of-way. The city has the right-of-way corridor through there. So yes, a vehicle parked on the concrete slab is intruding into the road right-of-way.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Does the city plow that? Do you know, Peter?
They do, yes, and I talked to the Public Works, and they said it's very difficult during the winter because of how everything already is, and it's a tight area, yeah.
So with this application, though, it's building to the side of the house, but it is not moving closer to the road right away, correct? It's just moving to the side, the property. Okay.
Yes.
That's the additional forest to the side. Okay.
They would bump it out to the front of the current existing house on the right-hand side. And then in the middle, that proposed will be short of the front of the house, the way that it's drawn right now.
Where it says proposed addition, that's just,
But on the bottom of that black line. 'cause
Yeah, I
that's their
recessed
tract.
that, I recessed that 4 feet for some HVAC, thing I was gonna put there, gas meter and, condenser, AC condenser. It's gonna be a utility 4-foot spot there.
I don't have any other questions.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you.
oh, I got one quick one. Do you plan to park in the garage mostly or on the driveway?
We will be using the garage and the driveway both.
Okay.
yes.
So, I guess because now you can kind of pull in beside the garage, right? If I recall.
Beside the garage.
The single-car garage, you can pull in there.
No, that is a walkway to the front door.
Oh. Okay, I guess I thought I've never seen cars there. On the other side you can though, huh? On the other half?
No, that's same
Really?
design. The front door is in that location.
Oh, okay.
It's an 8-foot 8-foot wide sidewalk that would use that impervious for garage. And then we do a side entrance instead of a front side, street side entrance.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Where would people, if you had company, where would people park?
Well, we have 3 locations in the front yard, just like we do now. And that's where we've been
And-
parking.
And that takes care of your needs.
Yes.
Okay. Because technically you can't park in the street, correct? Am I correct about that?
One side of the street is no parking currently. I don't know if that's daytime or what the rules are on that, but
Thank you.
we haven't had any issues there.
Thank you.
Okay.
And we will move on to public hearing. If there's any public input, please approach the podium, state your name and address. All right, we'll close the public input. We'll move on to deliberation for the commission, and we will review findings. And we actually have a couple different findings. We've got an approval and a denial one, just to go through kind of 2 approaches or 2 viewpoints. So I'll read the approval one first. So the Planning Commission shall consider the following in its decisions to make written findings concerning the variance approval or denial. Number 1, Strict interpretation of the ordinance would be impractical because of circumstances relating to lot size, shape, topographic, or other characteristics of the property not created by the landowner. And we could say, yes, the encroachment was created by a prior landowner. We could also take the stance that, yes, it was created by a prior landowner, however, it doesn't justify adding on to the nonconforming building and expanding the structure's encroachment to the right-of-way setback. The right-of-way setback exists to provide public safety related to vehicular traffic and road maintenance. The area on the point has extremely limited parking already. Adding more structure in that setback area, which would be about 4 feet, would make this area even more congested. The intent of Chapter 153 in the comp plan of the city is to reduce nonconformity when the opportunity exists. It is not to encourage expansion when a practical difficulty is not established. Number 2 consideration is the deviation from the ordinance with any attached conditions will still be within keeping the spirit and intent of the ordinance. If we approve, we may say that the encroachment is into the setback is minimal and pretty much in line with the existing building facade, or we could take the stance that no, the property is already over the allowed minimum impervious surface amounts. The maximum buildup for the property has been achieved. The impervious surface standards exist to keep green space in impervious areas to facilitate stormwater runoff and snow storage areas. Granting this variance would only allow the encroachment to expand and reduce areas for snow storage. Shoreview Lane is already a very difficult road for the city to plow, and due to the density of the buildings within the right-of-way setbacks. Number 3, the land use created by the variance is permitted in the zoning district where the property is located. If we approve it, we could look at it as a seasonal year-round residence use, which is allowed. We could also say that the right-of-way setback is not an area where the structures are permitted. The purpose of the right-of-way setback is to keep a buffer between the structure and the roadway. The corridor is needed for public safety, having adequate parking so vehicles can be unloaded and loaded safely without being in the roadway. This area serves as a buffer zone to protect adjacent structures from road maintenance activities and snow plowing. The 4th criteria to review is a variance would not alter the essential character of the locality. We may argue that it is residential and similar to neighbors. However, we could also look at this and say the current setback is less than the adjacent properties. The proposed use would fill areas into the right-of-way setback, further constricting the corridor. This area and several other places in the vicinity on Shoreview Lane are already challenging situations with limited parking that occupies the right-of-way. And then the final piece that we need to concern ourselves with is if the variance is not for economic reasons alone, but reasonable use of the property would not exist under this current ordinance. We could argue existing owners didn't create the encroachment, the prior owner did, and a strict application of the ordinance was applied. The existing owners would not be allowed to construct the addition. We could also look at it and say if economics were not a factor, the building could be reconstructed to fit within the building envelope that the property currently has. Reasonable use exists in maintaining the structure as it is today. If this property was redeveloped, as Lakeshore property often is, it would be held to the same 25% impervious standard and all other medium density residential properties, and the neighborhood would have to be required to meet setbacks. So there's a couple of ways that we can look at this. It is creating an additional 4 feet encroachment on that right of way, where there's limited snow removal on these properties. So that is something that has been noted and reviewed. So those are the findings that we have to consider and the different viewpoints that we can take in consideration of this.
Madam Chair, I don't believe that they're getting any closer to the road.
No, they're not.
They're going 4 feet north-south, and then I'll call it east-west here. They're staying,
They're not closer to the road, but they are including an extra 4 feet that is part of that road right-of-way.
where? I guess, I'm not
Moving
following.
closer to the road, but they're including another 4 feet that is not compliant with the right-of-way.
Oh, I see what you're saying, yes. She's saying
That's
this.
not,
It's increasing the amount of non-compliance by adding 4
There's
feet.
more building that is encroaching onto the
Oh, I
right-of-way.
understand what you're saying.
All right,
Okay.
that's a good way. I didn't think of it that way.
All right, discussion. And if there's any motions, feel free to make them. At this time, public input is closed. Any thoughts?
Well, hearing the applicant wanting to add to the back kitchen and dining room, which isn't on here, doesn't do them any justice if we were to approve this, because they'd have to come back again to do it again. So similar to the previous applicant, part of me thinks that they should come back with the exact plan that they're needing, what it's gonna look like to make it
That would
go
be,
through, if it's gonna go through.
is that something Peter would need to address, or?
Absolutely. If their plans have deviated from this, they need to go back to start legally because the plans aren't in, it legally can't happen. So, and that would, I'm glad they said something about that because if they want to do those, what would happen is their project would stop. They'd have to come in for an after-the-fact variance, pay after-the-fact variance fees and et cetera, so, and the variance application forms are very specific, and when we sit down with applicants during the pre-application meeting, we're very specific. Put everything you want on this, because it's a one-shot ask, and it's not uncommon to hear a variance change out. The city's variance fee is only $250. That's extremely negligible in the cost of the construction world, too, is doing things right, so.
In their application, it says additional garage, bedroom, and dining space. Dining space, I'm assuming, is that space you were talking about.
But per state statute, I believe it has to be on that site plan right there we were just looking at.
Or,
Yeah, it's actually simply building on the deck space.
And that wasn't, yeah, and that wasn't included on the site plan, so we can't approve
Think-
that component of it.
It's on the elevations, but not on the site plan, I guess.
Correct.
Right.
But I think state statute requires it to be on the site plan for us to say, yes, it's included, correct, Peter?
Well, the deal, people, when they ask about variances, they come into the office to look at the forms and stuff like that to see what it is, and then if something different is out there than what they've seen, that's the reason why, is that the site plan is the approved part of the variance, that everybody goes off of.
Right.
I can see that, yeah.
So, Peter, just to confirm, would we have two options here? Either deny it, have them come back with the full plan that includes the site plan for everything that's in the application, or, which I don't think we can do, approve portions of this, deny the portions that
You
are
can-
not in the site plan?
You could approve less, always less, never more on additions, because again, the public wasn't notified correctly. But yeah, if you said, if the board said, we'll give you one of these additions, that certainly is an option.
Do we have any motions at this time? How is, if we are not approving if we're reducing it down to just the garage portion, how is everybody feeling about that? Are there questions or concerns?
I always go back to parking, but I guess the parking is what it is now.
Right.
And they're getting more garage to park in the garage, in theory.
But it's still parking on a right of way.
We're not getting away from parking on the right of way. The only.
Either way, right.
Unless all the vehicles were parked in the garage, but it sounds like there'd still be parking outside. Which kind of goes back to this lot is probably just smaller than is needed for a purpose.
Where it's currently built.
I'm just wondering if they could go off of that footprint that's there now, you know, from those existing garages. Instead of going out, but go up. I don't know if that would make any sense or savings there.
Versus adding the 4 feet.
Yeah.
They would be narrow bedrooms.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of leaning towards the efficiency of having everything in one plan to approve. Just to add for that clarity.
You're probably right. I mean,
Before I make a motion, I just kind of want to run that
Right.
by everybody before we.
However, it would seem to me he would want to know what he can do with the front of that structure. You know, instead of coming in with a plan that includes something we've got a problem with.
Right. Do you have, so would you state that you have a current concern with the way the front of the roadside is? Would you like to see that it be used with the current plan and just go up without adding the 4-foot bump out?
You know, I'm recalling our denial of the plan on the lake on 4 that we denied because of the encroachment into the right-of-way.
Say that again?
We denied it because it encroached into, well, the setback was encroaching into the right-of-way. Am I saying that correctly, Peter? Do you remember which one?
They'd be encroaching into the setback. They wouldn't be in the right of way because then it would be an illegal structure. It's not on their property. But yeah, you're got the first part of it definitely correct, is encroaching into the right of way setback.
If I were that person, I would have a problem with us denying that one and approving this one.
So how would you state that? I'm just trying to understand kind of what is your intent of what you're saying?
I'm saying, I guess what I'm saying is we need to consider that decision that we made on that property as we consider this one.
You mean the other the other applicant that we haven't heard from yet?
No, that we denied. We denied that, that application because
Oh,
this, the setback was minimal.
right, okay, I see what you're saying.
Okay.
yeah, I see. What you're saying. Well, we had a discussion about this width here. Right?
Yeah, he said it was an 8-foot sidewalk.
Well, this is 7.5, and I think this one's 8, isn't it? Something like that. One is 7, 8, and the other one's 8 foot.
7.8.
Yeah.
I'm just still trying to wrap my head around this 4-foot bump out that's encroaching on the right of way.
She's talking this, like 4 feet this way, right?
Correct. It's by adding on
Yep.
in that direction, you're adding more space that's encroaching on the right of way.
Just in general, just
In
wall
general,
space.
Yep.
All
Yep.
this area, right? Yeah, that one.
We're removing areas that snow could be pushed into.
Right. I was just confused where the 4 feet came from.
I suppose it's 4 on each side. 8 total. If we're going from 12 to 20, is that,
Yeah, this one's pulled back though.
yeah. So we do need to do something here. So I know that we're all kind of contemplating this. It's a tough one.
It is.
Right now, these are just two little single-car garages, aren't they? Right now.
And it sounds like the issue that they're solving isn't parking. They're wanting, the initial goal that was stated was to provide more bedroom space.
Correct.
So by keeping the existing garage and building up, it would allow additional bedroom space, probably not as much as they were hoping for.
And the difference between that decision we made on that property and 4 and this is we already have a structure that's encroaching on the setback.
You're talking about the one down on 4?
Yeah, that would have been new construction.
Correct.
Right.
Well, this is new also.
Right. They're both new. To add the
Adding,
living space, you need to add the garage.
yep,
Actually, the next variance is gonna have more.
right. I think the biggest thing that we need to concern, or I think that we're deliberating on, is by adding this, is it creating more of a issue for public safety? We're basically taking more space away in that right-of-way area. And I know that others have stated, you know, that's an issue from snow removal. That road is tough. There's no sidewalks. There's nothing on either side for snow piling. In the winter, on snowy years, it does pile up there. I can even tell from various homes that are along there, that creates an issue. And given that this is taking away quite a bit of that space that they could shove it into, where's it gonna go?
Is the plow really gonna blow snow that far?
It gets pushed up, because if you look at where the road right-of-way is and the amount of the driveway, it gets pushed into those side areas to clear out the driveway.
That's not true. There's confusion.
Because they're gonna be required to move that snow, any existing snow on where they wanna put their 2 additions to begin with. Yes, does the snowplow probably blow snow close to their driveway or throw it? I would agree that yes, that's the answer. But they throw snow into my driveway and I'm required to remove it too.
I know, same.
And I guess that's the question, is where does it get moved to? Is the space that
Well,
is being taken up, is that where snow was hauled, or was there additional space?
I'm assuming they're gonna blow their driveway or shovel it or however they remove their snow is just gonna go back into the side yard where they probably put it to begin with. They're just gonna have to push it further into the yard because now they're eating up space where they could have put it. But more than likely, they're already removing all that snow and putting it somewhere to begin with because it's a sidewalk.
So the sidewalk is getting utilized as garage, so where is the new sidewalk then, the walkway to
There-
get into the home?
Apparently it's grass according to this drawing to the
This is
side
gonna be to be
entrance.
removed. That stuff's all getting removed.
Right, so Right now, where the garage is where they'd walk to get into the house.
On the north part, yes.
Yep. And so if that is now garage.
Yep.
Then to get into the house, they're probably having to use a side area.
Correct.
Which
There's a
means
side
they're gonna have to
entrance.
plow more space to that side that didn't used to get plowed in order to get into the
It's
house.
grass.
Right, but that's where snow was probably stacked before.
Or does it just get pushed further to the property line? I mean, that's a, in my mind, you're removing the snow regardless. And now that they're taking out this concrete, they can move snow there because it's already gonna be snow because they don't have that drive
Let me show
aisle.
you what I mean. This is what was pointed out to me. So right now, this is how they get into the house. They walk
Yep.
down here.
Right,
If this is now garage, they're gonna have to walk on this side. So
Correct.
before they were pushing it here,
Yep.
now they don't have that to push because they're gonna need to clear
this is
that
gonna be a
out.
roof.
Yep.
So why would they clear any of this off if there's a building
No,
structure
my
there?
point is right now,
Yep.
that this is how they get into the house.
Oh, so they're just
So
saying they're gonna have to clear a
They're
little
gonna-
bit,
They're gonna have to clear out more space.
which will,
Yeah.
I mean, it's, from my opinion, that's negligible, but I understand your point and I see where you're coming from.
So the entry door is there now.
On the side,
Yeah.
but it doesn't show any additional sidewalk, which I don't know if that's gonna happen, but if we did approve this, then they'd have to come back and
And do
get a
another
variance
sidewalk.
again.
Yeah.
So part of me feels like this is almost incomplete for what they're really wanting. With the addition of the dining room, and maybe they are gonna walk on the grass, I have no idea, and shovel it or snowplow it off. I don't know what's there existing, it doesn't look like there's any impervious material there,
Right,
but common sense tells me that that would get added.
yeah.
Because if you look at the opposite side, there is a proposed concrete pad, which I'm assuming that's where their entry door would be moved to as well. It's just not showing on the other side. But there still is no walkway either, so I'm not, and maybe they don't use their front door and they go out the garage. I mean, there's multiple different scenarios you could do this, it's just whether or not we feel that that's necessary from,
Bring up something. You're talking about my project, and we haven't even talked, you're talking about my side, and we haven't even got to that yet.
yep,
Then I can explain something.
We're together.
Yeah.
but separate variances.
Yeah.
Understood.
So I just would like to have my speak before we.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
We're just looking at the site plan and
Yeah.
looking at ideas on what this current plan could do.
Yeah.
So we could, can you bring the first applicant up again and ask them the sidewalk stuff or what?
We've closed the public hearing portion.
Okay, yeah.
Like, from my perspective, they're staying in line with their current non-conforming building structure, and they're not going any further towards the road than they're already doing. They're adding parking spaces, or they're washing out parking spaces because they're adding another stall, and they're removing part of one. From my knowledge, it's only the two of them that live there, so they can park in the garage if people have company. They obviously have to park there or elsewhere anyway, and it's been done for the last 8 years or however long they've lived there. So that's, looking at it from, that's my perspective on it.
How old are these buildings? They were built in what?
So
60-something.
just kind of putting this out there, just throwing ideas, because I think we seem kind of stuck. We could approve a limited portion of this and state that the garage addition is approved, but not the lakeside changes, nor a sidewalk or anything getting into the house, because that wasn't on the plan. We could just make
Approved
sure
as
that that's
planned.
clear, that those would be separate variances that would be requested.
I'm fine with that.
No, is that something,
Or we can't do that, Peter?
The variance has to be in the plans, otherwise we're approving something that's fictitious in nature. But yeah, if it's on the plans, it certainly is on the table.
So we could approve the garage, but state the rest of the comments in there are not in this particular approval. Do you want to make a motion on that?
I'm just trying to figure out where this centerpiece is on the drawings, because I can see where they're adding onto the garage, but I don't, where it's being held back, that 4 feet for air
That's this
conditioning.
section right here.
So that's getting built out that far.
This is getting pulled back. That,
Got it.
where that single window is.
It looks like it's getting built in and pushed almost up to the front of the garage. Because it's a proposed addition. So there must be a gap here right now.
Right.
Yep. So then it's gonna somewhat flush out with this. And it's hard to
Well, it's
see.
actually gonna be flush with the rest, right? This
This is kind of confusing because
This window
this
is-
already,
This will be flush with this whole upstairs. Because you can see it's back here, right? Am I looking at that right? There. So there's our side door, there's our,
The front elevation. Or whoever's
This is-
controlling this.
yep,
The front elevation,
It's the east side.
Garage side.
garage. So from the site plan, I see that they're adding on, so we're looking at the left side application right now, from my understanding, is this correct?
Yeah.
So they're adding on to the left side of the garage, then there's another proposed addition somewhere in the middle. Stay there, go back up once. In between the two
he's
garages.
talking about that area there.
Right.
That's back again,
That's
same
set
plane
back.
as the back, as the bedrooms up above, right?
Correct.
And then the garages are, that garage is actually 4 feet out where their existing wall is, correct? Right. That makes sense?
it is kind of confusing on here.
So that
Doesn't
garage
look
would
right.
get bigger
So this
than
is,
what it was.
Is this
this is this whole plane here. Then this is the existing,
There's like this little bump out here. Where is that shown on here?
that's right here.
But this, it's showing, okay. Yep. I see what you're saying.
This whole bedroom plane
Yep.
is one area.
And this is sticking out more than,
Yep, that's, the other side is this one over here. But they're basically taking this hard surface out to put a new hard surface in, I'm assuming. So you're gaining some stuff, but you're actually losing impervious. Oh, yeah, matter of fact, here, they show the sidewalk.
all right, well, we have options. We can either table it, to have further discussion, we can deny it, have them come back with a total plan, or we can approve part of it. Those are kind of the three options on the table. Does anyone have a motion or desire to make a motion? Otherwise, we're going to have to table it. Or deny it.
I would make a motion to deny and come with a complete plan. That way we don't have to come back at some other point to add in the dining room addition, and any other
And
things
I'd
that
say-
get added to the plan.
And I'd say add clarity on the sidewalk too, just so we know what that is too, if there is a sidewalk. Any favors?
Will that change the impervious?
A little bit.
If there was. So we have a motion to deny and have them come back with a complete plan of everything that they have listed in here. Do we have a second on that motion?
Second that.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion has passed. All right, moving on to the next agenda item, which is variance V24004, Michael and Fonda Schutz, and we will start with the staff report.
All right. All right, just gotta get it pulled up here on the screen quick, or on my screen here. All right, Madam Chair, members of the board, variance number V24, this is Schutz, so 004.
Wrong one. They're both 004, but
Yeah,
different
once-
names.
Let me get the right one here.
Page 49.
Let's get it. It was, I think it got published in the packet twice, but, so. Did I get the- Yeah.
Is that your correct address, or is it the address of your?
What's that?
That's our address get changed at all? That's ours.
29853 is ours.
Yeah, they've got the wrong name on there.
Oh,
Okay, just a different name. Yeah, this is lot 7, so.
we got the right application number, the right address, the wrong name.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Yep, lot 7. Okay. For lot 7, 17th edition of the Breezy Points, Madam Chair, members of the board, public notice was sent out in respect to Minnesota Statute 462 for all neighbors concerned. And the public notice was also given to DNR as the property is in Shoreland Overlay District. Applicant has filed the appropriate variance, the appropriate variance fee, and the variance request is requesting a variance from the maximum allowed impervious surface coverage of 25% to 30%, and a variance from the required road right-of-way setback of 30 feet to 8.3 feet to construct an 8 by 22 addition and a 7.8 by 22 foot addition onto an existing non-conforming structure located 8.3 feet from the road right-of-way. Summary of the property includes the property was platted in 1964. Property is a duplex on a peninsula on Pelican Lake. There are other multi-dwelling units in the area, similar character, and also commercial zone properties as well. Property meets and exceeds the 50-foot lake setback, so there's no concern with the lake setback. The applicant is requesting a variance from the city road right-of-way to add on to a structure not meeting the setbacks. The property is also over the allowed impervious surface coverage and does require from that standard as well, and it was published as such, and it's going from 29.3% to 30.4% for a net increase of roughly 1%. Because the properties are separate on this duplex, the variance board, the planning commission yourselves, you can approve or deny any of them. These are absolutely independent property with independent concerns, being that they're different deeds and different properties, different point in time. As the staff doesn't have any additional things, it's, it's close to the right of way, it's tight parking out in the area, snow removal is a problem and things of that nature. These properties that are built out are often, they're not in flux with what's allowed today. The only way to get an addition onto them is ask for a variance to the board. A lot of these concerns are, the staff recommends the board require the applicant establish some kind of reason or nexus for the improvement for the request. Just decide for a landowner basis going I want more room on my property. If it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit, and there's the reason why we have the impervious surface coverages and things of that nature. Property is also out there on a peninsula, and there's a lot of different situations located from the right-of-way. This property The duplex unit does seem to be the closest one encroaching into that right-of-way. The other question would be, is this going to be used for vehicular storage, or is the vehicular parking going to be going on the road? And that is a summary of the staff's report, and if you have any questions, please let me know.
Any questions for Peter before we bring the applicant up?
Well, in the application, it does say dining space again for the additional garage and bedroom and dining space. So is that the same situation as the other half? Are we?
What is heard on this variance is germane to just the specific variance request and the materials in the application. So yes, that is the case. If it's on the site plan and the dimensions are there, it's absolutely fair game to improve. But if it's something, if the applicant's wanting something different that's in the site plan, it can't be approved, because it's not what was designed. With all respect aside, it is the applicant's responsibility to come with professional site plans to show what these areas are of that nature to be what it is. We take what they have in because that's what we're assuming what they're asking for. So, but yeah, they got the site plan up there and everything, so, for the additions, so if you guys need to have Deb adjust the screen, please let us know and we'll get the right page pulled up.
Should we say him?
Bring the applicant up. Bring the applicant up.
Okay, everybody's ready? All right. If the applicant could come up and approach, state your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Mike Schutz, and I'm at 29853 Shoreview Lane, and Fonda Schutz is my wife. So I've had associated with this property since 2007. Our family bought into it back at that time, and I took half ownership. We had a dual ownership at that time, and I took full ownership in 2015. We moved up here full-time this November, and we made it our home. So, and it's going to be our retirement home, but that's what we're planning here, and to kind of get it ready for retirement. We're not there yet, but we're getting there. So, so a lot of this is duplicate to what we were looking at already. So we kind of know where the issues are. But we actually have an interior design here. I thought I'd present.
If you set it right here, I can go in the back and show it on the big screen, but you can pass this out.
Can I give this to you?
Yeah,
So
if
just
you don't
like
mind.
there.
Sorry. Thank you.
This is kind of nice to see.
Thank you.
You have a second floor too?
Above the garage. So when we kind of started this project and we met with Peter, we kind of did a site walk and went around it and we talked about the variances needed. And, we did it all together. And so forgive us, we aren't builders and zoning people, but we were concerned about the two variances and what they meant. How close are we getting any closer to the road? We understood that one. And are we getting any closer to the lake? And we're not. So we didn't realize you had to have a back design if we're not impeding any variances. So that's why it's not complete, but that can be done. That's not a problem. Our whole goal was to get the footprint approved, so we knew we could do it, and that's where we didn't have the understanding, I guess. But this will give you an inside look, kind of what we're thinking.
Madam Chair.
What?
Madam Chair.
Oh.
Do you want to scoot
Oh, sorry.
just scoot the page up?
Yeah, let me move
No.
this. Oh, I didn't even know.
There.
I didn't know that.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No, so we are full-time citizens here now. And where I think this is going to benefit for some of the things there's a lot of talk about snow plowing. Well, I plowed this driveway for 12 years, and so have the other people. This will actually help me because the cars will be off the driveway. Our cars will go into the garage. And the plows don't come through there very fast. They're going at a pretty slow clip because there's mailboxes along there. So they're rolling it right to the end of the driveway. It's not like they're coming through full speed and wind rolling it up to our door. That never happens. And then we blow it from there. And we blow it where it shows on the outside. There's where the watershed area or the proposed runoff area, that's where that snow all goes.
Show them on here.
So it'd be,
We're over here, this is our
yeah,
side?
so that side. So everything gets moved and pushed into here. I have a side-by-side with a blade and a blower, so I can handle all the snow removal. And like Lauren too, he has a blower, and I help him with the blading. We push it off into the grass. So that's never been a problem, no matter how much snow we've had. We've had a stack of snow in that grass area, or we blow it and even it out, so.
And it would be in the same exact spot. Snow would be in the same exact spot it's in now.
Right,
Even with all of this 100% done, the snow would be in the exact same spot it is now, but maybe easier because our vehicles wouldn't be in the way.
right,
So if that clears it up, I hope. Yeah.
yeah. So obviously, we're looking at it as a full-time resident now. Kind of what you're referring to, part of what we wanted to know tonight too was, yes, can we do that road, that garage area, because we're not impeding anymore out. Yes, we're going a little wider, but for us to complete the plan, yeah, we're gonna have to come back. But it would be nice to know that, can we do this plan in the front by the road, the way it sits, so we can go ahead and pay the architect to do this. Otherwise, we're wasting money if we can't even get that approved. So that would be crucial to know for both of us. But that's really the big
So you,
question.
you're adding the kitchen area.
Yeah,
Yeah, on this,
Whereas
we
the other-
were, maybe we were misinformed, that's on us. We tried to ask a lot of questions, so, but if you look at what we were told on here was to very much pay attention to pervious, impervious, which we have
Right.
tried to really hard. 1% different, and even that, we could still chop off 1% somewhere if needed, not a problem, happy to do it. What what we're wanting to do is not go out towards the road anymore. Our garage apparently is already in the setback, massive, but that's an existing building. We're just wondering, can we keep our same line and just make it fatter, wider? Our twin home, whatever you wanna call it, has a big, kinda ugly,
commons
unusable
area, cavity.
commons area, which
Right.
doesn't make any sense. Can we kind of fill that in with garage that would accommodate both of us, which to me is safer, gets vehicles off the road. It is a very busy place, and to have the vehicles kind of always out there, I agree, not so good. We're happy to even cut into a little bit of our existing inside house if we needed any more depth on the inside to take it away from our inside house, just to put vehicles away. So we would come home, I'd open the garage, I'd go in, shut it, boom, clean. Nice, well, there's a lot of people that walk by, there's a lot of party, Breezy Point. I don't really love all my stuff sitting outside, it's kind of a temptation for people to do mischief. I don't like that. I'd love to be able to just have it clean and put away and safe and good. I feel like that's a positive to the neighborhood, it's not an eyesore, I don't know, I don't like the clamp it type of look. And I'm working full-time from this residence now. He's kind of commuting back and forth, but I'm there. So I'd like to have everything put away. We aren't asking for anything closer to the road. We're just asking, can we just kind of expand, which I understand Marcy's point, but because you're going sideways, you're still kind of encroaching. I'm like, true. So yeah, trying to weigh out the good, the bad, the ugly, is it makes the property much more, I think, realistically usable for us. If we could put things away, I think it's a beautification of the building in and of itself, I think, too. But I understand that thought of, but it's still in the setbacks, so true. And then in the back, On this particular one, we didn't draw the lines back here.
That's what I was just gonna ask you, the kitchen area,
Right.
no, that,
We didn't draw the lines on here because we were told, because that's already considered impervious, and we're not asking for any more impervious in the back at all. In fact, we're taking out a bunch of it. This one does show exactly what we would want to do. Do I have the right angle? Okay, back here, I can't superimpose this, but this little section right here is what would be coming out with just building, but it already is impervious, so it would continue to be impervious. We're not going past the line that already exists. We're just making it more usable for the interior of our home. We're gonna move, right now, there's a bedroom that's downstairs. We would just move the bedroom up and not have the bedroom downstairs. We would just make this main level a little bit bigger for the practicality of having it be a full-time home versus just a cabin where we just went on the lake and didn't really care about the inside of the house. But now that we're there 100% of the time, it makes a little bit of a difference. And to be able to have room above these garages, that enables me to have a space to work remotely, because I'm there a zillion hours a week now. And also have the bedroom that was downstairs put upstairs, which is really nice because that's our mother-in-law and she needs a place to be able to be. And then on the upper level, I don't know if I have that picture here, maybe Lauren does, but this bump out that's already, like I said, already existing here, it's just gonna be building versus deck. Our upstairs bedroom would also bump out that same exact thing, so it would be a nice continuous line that goes up. I don't know if that addressed those questions that you guys had. Did I address them, or did I just make it more muddied?
I think I clarified some things, but we still won't have a real number on the impervious.
The impervious would be, we are 1% or 1.1% different
Right.
than we are right now. So, and again, if that's a problem, we'll chop off 1.1% somewhere, not a problem at all. We are very careful and we want to be very respectful of our property. We love it and we are there to be good stewards of the property. If we have to chop off 1.1%, fine. We would be at the exact same level then. Right now, we're at 29.3%. We'd be at 30.4 if we did this. If we have to take off something, we can. And we're happy to do that, not a problem. We're just trying to make it a little bit more livable for me now working full-time there. I'm there 24 hours a day, and being able to put things away. I like to have things clean and I think safe too. There's a lot of people that do walk past our place. I don't know which direction I am here. I'm confused. Okay, here. This helps me to put it this way so I see garages in the front. This would be where we would put we have a UTV with a plow, a snow plow on it. That would be here. A truck and car would be here. And again, if we need any more depth, because it's really small, it's still small, we would dig in this direction to get that depth. We would not be asking to go towards the road. Because I agree, it's close to the road. But with this out of the way, I think it makes it more positive for snow plows that go by, because we're not potentially jutting out.
Not hitting our truck.
Even when we have our truck parked right now, like Peter said when he came, you can't even fit, like our hitch is sitting in the road. So to be able to get this done solves that problem. And it makes it easier, I think, on the city. They have to watch out for less. They can just do their thing. They do a very good job, though. They go by at a normal, reasonable rate. They're not hitting anybody's mailboxes. They've done a super job. We have no complaints there. But snow piles, even though we would be going to the left and the right for the Kerfeld side, for the Schutz side, the snow would be in the exact same spot it is now. So that wouldn't be it's not a concern. I mean, the reality of it is it's not a concern.
So what I'm understanding is the cars would be able to move inside, and because there's also already an existing garage, you're able to move further off of the road for parking than you currently are.
Correct.
So that's solving that.
Yes.
And if you were to meet the current impervious coverage, so we're not exceeding that, even it's 1%, but just to be consistent with our other decisions that we've made to get that in, and then to come back with a plan that includes everything, so that we can improve everything all at once. I think that addresses our main questions and concerns for both. One question I have is the stormwater runoff. Is that an official plan? Or
I
is
don't
that
know if
just
it's
something?
official, I don't know anything about that, but I
Okay.
know that right now, the way our property sloping is, it goes here and it kind of sits for a little while, it goes towards Kanawanda, I don't know if
We
that's
have a
north or
natural,
west.
so you know, just dip towards
But then we
Kennewater.
also, in the back at the lakeside, we have a berm that goes up. I mean, water doesn't go uphill to try to get to the lake. It's not a problem.
See
And
the arrow,
doing-
the black dark arrow pointing
Yeah.
back,
Yeah.
So
indicating
doing
it's sloping
this
that way.
doesn't affect, again, that wouldn't change, even if we did 100% of this, it doesn't change the waters where they're going or where they're, at all. So there's zero negative effect as far as that goes. So, and we were very careful about that too. Like, we looked at lots of different, what can we do, what variation, that kind of thing. But we came back to, we want to chop things off to make sure that we're not overstepping on any pervious, impervious, because we do want to be good stewards of the land. And if we need to look into, we even talked about taking off this, can you see it? No, this back decking, because, looking at something that would be pervious, like what would pervious options potentially be there? So we're more than happy to do that. We're just trying to make it more livable and usable and safe and beautiful for the neighborhood and clean and not affect negatively anything that's already existing.
And it's a pretty unique property that you have two owners. One of us could say, I'm not doing it, or you're not. We both want to do it. So this is a unique situation to make that very nice and very livable, and it's still 1983 in there, We've been hanging on and hanging on, but now we have to do something. And I think it'll just be great for the neighborhood, it'll be great for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, the roof needs to be done
So
now.
on the back, the back side now,
Okay.
if I'm understanding, Peter, that's within, it doesn't meet the setback of the high water?
Yes, it does. I know. By quite a bit, right?
Thank you, Councilman. Madam Chair, do I have permission to approach the dais here?
It states in it,
Okay, that one's perfect.
closer to the water.
Actually,
Okay, what are we getting to?
that's you? Okay, okay.
Do we take away the deck and then are you still close to the water?
Is it easy enough to switch it? Otherwise, I can just point at this.
While
Madam
that's
Chair, can
happening,
I
just
ask
a
Peter a
quick question.
Oh,
Yeah.
If we have a snowy year in that pilot,
Yep.
let me start by saying I'm happy to know what your plans are for that snow. That was a concern of mine. That it helps me to know that. But what would you do? Where does that water go if you get a big pile of snow
It's
there?
been big.
It goes right
It goes
here.
right in that
Right in here.
watershed area.
This whole section is available.
And it's never flooded,
Totally
it's
for
never
snow.
sitting water.
Right.
Even when
Okay.
it melts, it soaks in, it's so sandy.
Right.
It doesn't pool.
And right now, we're parking on this that says to be removed. And that then would be additional space for snow that right now isn't space
That
for
would be
snow.
grass,
Because
you
we
know.
would be inside safely put away and that would now become available if needed.
And we're gonna give back, even though this is in the setback, it doesn't count towards it. This would be grass up here as well. So you're gonna gain that, even though it doesn't count for us, we're gonna give it back. So you're
Right.
gonna get grass there.
But you're gonna add a sidewalk to get to that door out of this one.
Yeah, he forgot to, put that in our last drawing, but, so we gotta correct that and then we'll make
I
that
don't know if that'll
adjustment.
change your impervious much, but
Yeah,
No.
we'll make it so it fits.
Madam Chair, can I ask Peter a question? Peter? Is deck considered impervious right now?
Correct, yeah.
So
deck
on the
is-
drawing, when they add building out, that will add to their impervious percentage.
No.
No, it's impervious.
Deck is already impervious according to the survey. So this is already impervious and we're just gonna be putting kitchen there versus deck.
Right,
We're
but then
just
that will
swapping.
add to your
Just wait.
pervious, right?
I may, impervious or pervious?
Impervious.
It doesn't
Impervious, yeah,
add to
like the deck already
The
counts
water.
against them. Yeah,
Oh, it
so-
already counts against
Yep,
it.
it already
Okay.
counts against them, yep. In some places, some cities it does, some it doesn't. Most cities it does. I'm sorry, I misheard you.
That's okay.
I thought the word was,
Impervious.
but yeah, so they'd get like a no net increase if they're going
Right,
stacked. over
okay,
the top.
that was my question.
Sorry about that.
Nope,
But then you would have to put new footings, right? If you're gonna,
Yeah.
so then you're going closer to the water where you're already too close, right? That's kind of what I was getting at.
We're not going closer to the water.
I
We're going
think-
0 inches closer to the
they're
water.
basically just taking that
I think they're
square of the
okay.
chair.
We're swapping.
I just thought it said in here that the property actually exceeds the lake setback of 50 feet.
Yeah, it exceeds it. It's back further than 50 feet.
Yeah, so they're
Exceeds To the
good.
water or the other way?
The line
No.
is.
We have more
They
room.
met the setbacks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
All right.
That side
So
we
that
don't
dash
have.
line is the building envelope.
right.
yeah.
And Madam Chair, can I approach the
Please
dais,
do.
please? And I just want to look at this one, just for my clarification as well, too. Okay, so we're on the lake side.
Yep, this is Lakeside. Yes. This is like, yeah.
Building envelope.
That's the building envelope right there. Is that blue line that goes around this. Any addition to this building, because it's outside of this, will always and forever require a variance, even if they do build in here. That's just procedurally, that's not, the law is trying to punish people or not, it's a non-conforming structure.
Yeah.
Question I had for the applicants is if they were putting something over here.
That was probably just gonna be a deck yet. We're gonna do some sort of a
Still
patio
there.
deck.
There's
yeah.
there's no residential addition going over this or anything? Okay.
No, just right here, because this little section, can I take your pen? This would be kitchen.
Right.
So we're making this
So-
come out, but that's gonna stay the same and this is gonna go away.
Right there, I apologize to say, but I'm extremely disappointed because when I was at the site, we talked in great detail about that. Your site plan left it off. Your request for variances, whichever, but that is something if the board cannot grant that because it's not in the plans, and it needs to be.
In this plan, we didn't know
you
that
know,
the
'cause
survey
it just-
people
can I- can I
had to do
continue
this work
speaking
for them.
a second, please?
Yes.
Thank you. On the survey where it says here, it says proposed addition.
Yes.
Proposed addition, it needs to say proposed addition there.
Okay.
Yep.
We
So-
can fix
so
it.
I know it's probably not good news for you guys, it's a message that I have to deliver is because the city attorney's gonna say, Peter, you can't give them a permit because it's illegal.
Can this
because it
one be
wasn't
shown?
In another request to the board that's published, correct, because these additions, the surveyor, whoever your designer is, a lot of times people hire professional architects and designers to do their properties, and that's why, because they show this, again, proposed addition.
Right.
This is deck that's out there, it would need to say proposed addition. The reason why is because even if we gave you a permit, a neighbor would say, that wasn't even on their plans, and we'd again say, yeah, it wasn't on the plans, it wasn't heard on the variance. And now we're kind of off in the weeds on this whole situation because these site plans are not accurate to the board,
So this we can't add now. We have to yeah, we get
Can
it.
I,
You
can
don't-
I address this though?
it's not even de jure for
The reason
the
that it
case because
didn't
it's
say
not even
proposed
on
addition
there.
here is because we were told, and obviously bad on us, I guess, that because this is already pervious and it's still gonna be pervious, we didn't need to do this. This was all proposed because it was changing. This wasn't a change. We're like you said, it's net zero.
But it's going from a deck to an addition to a house
Yeah, we-
with a
Correct.
roof over its head.
And we're happy to
So
fix
it's-
it,
it's
but
going
that was
from a-
why.
It's going from a tomato to
Yes.
to a completely different, banana completely. And the thing is that, yeah, it procedurally can't be approved. My recommendation to the board would be deny the application because the building plans are incorrect. It's procedurally, it can't be granted as such, you know. And perhaps the surveyor or the designer, they may have, they needed to know to represent that correctly.
Even though
This
it
is
shows on,
actually the-
even though it shows on here?
Right, even though it
Doesn't
shows it
matter.
on here,
Because we didn't submit that.
it's not on the site plan because, yeah, proposed addition,
Okay.
and it needed to be proposed addition here.
Okay.
You know, and everything with this building requires a variance because it's all within the setback. It doesn't matter, you know, they say, well, we can do an addition here because it meets the setback. No, it doesn't meet the setback from the road right of way. And from staff's review to the Board of Adjustment, to the Planning Commission, is, you know, staff would recommend the Planning Commission really address the road right-of-way setback. Do we want to see additions that take this flush up to the road right-of-way? If yes, approve the variance. If no, deny the variance. It's a really simple request. It's a really simple answer to it is do we want to expand these structures? They have, they're flush at the line right there, and that's really the variance. This needs to be added in there as a dimensional request.
Okay,
So, yeah.
yeah.
It's, thank you for letting me come up, I appreciate it, thank you for showing me
Yeah.
this. As of today, I had one of the board members asking me, what is this? I'm like, these are not additions, these are decks.
Yeah.
And even if you got a variance today and you brought in your building plan and said, we're gonna do an addition, you'd go back before the variance board. Not saying you'd get denied or approved, it's just procedurally we have to do that because we would not be following the law on that. So, sorry about going in length here, but I just wanted to,
We were just told wrong information.
to communicate those things, so. Okay, all right, guys, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Any other questions at this time?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
And that moves us to public hearing. If there's anyone in the audience that has public input. All right, we'll close the public input. We'll move on to deliberation for the commission. I think because we have talked through this, I'm just going to kind of sum it up, and I'm not going to read all the findings because we've already done that. But I think from what I'm hearing, we're asking the applicant, we're denying it, but asking them to come back with a full site plan that includes everything, detailing out what they're also going to do with the walkway, what they're going to do with the build out on the deck, and just clarifying in the plan that, one, there is stormwater plan, two, that parking would all be inside. So we're not parking in the right-of-way area. We're parking inside the garage, which actually, based on your comments, reduces parking in the right-of-way from where it is today because you're able to park further in because you're utilizing the current garage plus the extension. So I think, does everybody agree? Is there anything else we want to add as a?
Well, we can't put a condition that they can't park. I suppose we could.
Well, just
We
saying
can't,
that to
yeah.
clarify that they aren't, I would just put
Oh,
in there that they are parking
okay.
inside the garage, that
All
it
right.
isn't being used for storage or boats or, you
Oh,
know,
I
other
see what you're
things.
saying, yes, yeah.
Is that a motion?
I will make a motion, just kind of making sure there isn't anything else we need to put into it before we formally do that.
No.
All right. Well, then I will make a motion that we deny the current request, that the applicant come back with those items that we've discussed, and then we'll be able to review it at a later date. So that is my motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion has passed. All right. Then we're moving on to old business. Is there any old business that we need to review? Any staff reports that we need to review at this time?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the council, just an update on the zoning ordinance project. We did meet with HGKI. We're giving them a tour of the city just initially, so we'll keep you updated on as they move forward on that. We're doing 2 meetings, just showing them some different areas of the city so they can review the ordinances and look at what the city looks like and and be able to help them through that process. That's it for staff report. Just a quick note on just a reiteration to the board. You know, it's the applicant's responsibility always to give you guys good plans, totally. You know, and thank you very much for denying the variances because it starts it fresh. Because we speak with these applicants, I make a point to go on site, and then I also do a staff meeting with them, and everything needs to be on this, you know, and then, and stuff gets missed, and that totally would be like a project stopper in the middle of the summer. You know, a neighbor would call and say, this wasn't in on the plans, and I'd look at it and I'd be like, well, I don't like to give that news, but I'd have to say, it's gotta stop, you gotta come back before. So thank you, the board, I really appreciate that, so, yeah. So, that
All right.
concludes staff report.
Thank you, Peter. Any commissioner reports? All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.